Good morning.
Mr. David Lee Scales, a married man.
I know.
I mean,
Feels so great.
I guess you're a married man for our last episode too. So thanks, the time machine.
Exactly. It was just one final technicality. We're already living together. We already have a kid together. The marriage is really more for the parents and the family and everybody else.
Is she now Lauren Scales?
She is. I mean, she changed her Instagram name. If that is that,
Ooh,
if that's the indicator.
I think that's more important than the legal document.
The legal documents just take a lot of time and effort. So that's in the works. It just is not official as of yet.
How mad is she that she has to go to the DMV and get a new license? I guess we all do. Stinking California. Have you gotten your whatever 2.0 license yet?
No, I'm really going to wait till the last minute. I have a passport. I have do you actually need that for traveling in the future?
I I don't think so. I think if you're traveling, I think you do need it to travel uh, in the United States. But if you have a passport, you're just as good. So you just got to bring your passport.
Anything to avoid the DMV. If it means I have to carry my passport for the rest of my life, I'll just carry my passport.
Amen.
How have you been for the last 2 weeks?
Great, busy. We've had a lot of news to keep up on. The surf world just exploded since you've been gone.
You looks like you grew a mustache since I've last seen you.
I did, grown a mustache. Yeah, a lot of surf news. It's morning to night. I can't even keep up.
Well, it's funnily, I don't know if when you're a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail, but as far as I could tell from Beach Grit, it's all love stories. I'm recently married, and it's all Gisele and Kelly. It's all Emrata and maybe Brad Pitt, maybe a DJ from New York.
Don't know. It's like heart. Yeah, no, it's a seasonal. Who knew that fall was the season of love? I guess pumpkin spice made it the season of love.
Indeed. That'll do it to the best of us. So let's talk. Kelly Slater reuniting with Gisele and Emily Ratajkowski, potentially with Brad Pitt. Let's start with Emily, first of all.
Yeah.
What is her relation to the surf world?
Emily Ratajkowski, Emrata grew up in Encinitas. Did you know that? I
did.
She went to San Diego High School. She is local. I mean, I've seen her shopping at the Seaside Market before. So I figure she's got to be Encinitas's most famous first anything, right? Famous first child. Got to be the most famous person from Encinitas. And there's no doubt that she's a sleepy little surf town. No doubt she dabbled in surf at some point and or dated a surfer. So there's our connection.
It goes deeper than that, if you're not aware. She used to do body glove campaigns.
Oh, what? Thank you, David Lee. We got another story today.
Yeah, you should check with Jimmy Kane. I feel like Jimmy Kane may have even shot some of that stuff.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going in. This is going to be a deeper dive.
Yeah, she definitely is surf industry adjacent. And I feel like even her modeling career, like the entry point was surf brand. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for providing texture to an already rich story.
You're welcome. So we'll get into her story and her love life, but I'll start by saying, I think she is the epitome of the Instagram model. And there's so many Instagram models that the platform makes them look so much more glamorous and even more beautiful than maybe they do in real life. Her, I feel like it's actually the platform cannot make her look more beautiful than she does in real life. You know what I mean? Like she has this natural just beauty, but she happened to come about at a time where the platform allowed her to elevate what she was doing or what she hoped to do with her career. So much so that she has transitioned into full-fledged celebrity. I mean, from Instagram model to starring in Gone Girl as the love interest for Ben Affleck to now doing the highest fashion runway shows and magazine shoots and all that sort of stuff. So she is a legitimate celebrity at this point.
Possibly dating Brad Pitt.
I know. So I thought that she was married. You know, she got married 4 years ago or whatever it was to some dude who I was really surprised. When I saw him lock her down, I was like, who's this dork?
I saw that dork in Seaside Market. He looked just
Did
as
you really?
dorky, just as squishy faced and pudgy and yeah, worthless.
And then I looked him up after you started writing these stories on Beach Grit. I looked him up just to find out his backstory, and he's a quote producer, which I feel like means he just doesn't actually earn a living and he dabbled in film. Do you have any idea what his backstory is?
No, but it had to be family money or something, right?
Okay.
Like, there's no way he was locking Emrata down on the virtue of his film production. Like, he is for sure some Hollywood or, established money thing.
Got it. He's also not locking her down based on his looks. He's a weird
No,
looking dude.
he's a weird looking squish.
So what's up with the Brad Pitt connection?
Well, the Brad Pitt connection was floating for, I think, a good 10 days, right? And that the internet abuzz with the Brad Pitt, Emily Ratajkowski possibly together, even though they had never been photographed in the same place at the same time. But burning hot. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, what if, I've seen Emily Ratajkowski down here. As I wrote, I've had dinner with Emily Ratajkowski up in Los Angeles, nice intimate dinner. I was thinking, we're basically friends. Could I basically be friends with Brad Pitt? I mean, if she's down here, her family's still here, Brad Pitt's going to start coming down here. Amazing. Wouldn't it just be great? But alas, the stinking DJ seems like he's gotten in the way.
Well, there's photos of her and the DJ that kind of
Yeah.
validate the rumors.
Yeah. So. I don't need another New York DJ in my life, frankly. I don't need one in my life.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point. And Brad Pitt, I want to believe in the Brad Pitt rumor because I think that's a great pairing.
It is.
And I also like that he's pretty, other than his marriages, I feel like he flies under the radar. Like he probably dates a ton of women. We don't know who any of them are.
I feel that him being down here would provide an extra layer of secrecy. He would not advertise it, right? I feel the waves would suddenly get a little less crowded. There would be a little less people clogging the streets, right? Just because Brad Pitt is here, spreading some smoke around.
The problem is you're publicizing it. You're actually writing about it, and that's going to draw attention to Encinitas.
Uh-oh, man.
You're the culprit.
I'm caught between a rock and a hard place here.
Do you like Brad Pitt?
I mean, I've always liked his movies. Always. So I'm a Brad Pitt fan. And then once had a buddy who was catering a wedding or working it was a long time ago. But Brad, when he was married to Jennifer, was hanging out there. And they would go, Buddy and Brad would go on smoke breaks and during the event. And he said he was totally down to earth and normal.
He seems like the coolest dude ever. Like he seems down to earth and normal. I love the fact that he smokes a ton of weed.
Yeah.
Like that's, I guess he doesn't anymore. I guess he's sober now, but for a couple years or a couple of decades, I guess, like he was just smoking a ton of weed, but not acting like a stoner. He was always incredibly lucid. Yep. Yeah. Incredibly charismatic, charming. I think he's an underrated actor as well.
For sure. And did you read, it just came out, I think, in one of his latest interviews, or maybe a while ago now, but he has a psychological disorder where he can't recognize faces.
I've heard of that disorder, but I didn't know he had it.
Yeah, he has it. And so he says people don't believe him, but he says it's true. And he says, so a lot of people think he's rude because he just won't remember them, like by face. So he'll do he looks like he's trying to cool guy everybody. But I was thinking, Brad Pitt is the one guy on earth who could fully cool guy anyone else on earth. He maybe not,
totally.
You can't cool George Clooney, maybe cool guy George Clooney, but anyone else is fair game for you, Brad Pitt. So don't feel bad. It's like the perfect disease for the perfect person to carry the disease.
It really is. Face blindness is what I've heard it referred as.
Yes, he's got it.
That's incredible. Well, there's no chance that a New York DJ gets in the way of Brad Pitt, by the way. Brad, if that happened, it was because Brad turned Emily down. It is no chance that guy swooped on Brad.
For sure. But and maybe Brad is so good at the smoke game that he planted this New York DJ. He's just like, Emily, go act, as we like to call it. Go act the scene just to keep our love, away. We're not the Kardashians. We are Brad Pitt and Emily Ratajkowski. We're a layer above.
So how was your dinner with her? What can you reveal to our listeners?
Yeah, it was great. It was I can't remember how we met this woman, but it was a woman who like curates dinner parties for her. I guess she combines different, models, actors, musicians, whatever. And I have no idea. Cersei and I met her at a party, one party. And she said, "You guys are great. You're interesting. Action sports, I think, maybe was intriguing." And she said, "Come to my next dinner party." So it was just like I don't know, maybe 10 people, but it was all like movers and shakers, right? It was Emily Ratajkowski. I can't remember who the other ones were, but I do remember, it was like beautiful dinner outside, small table. It was a small little bungalow up in Los Angeles in the yard. And then some guy came in late and was acting. I thought he was just acting super effective. Like he had a bunch of, like unbuttoned shirt and jewelry on and, gaudy cowboy boots. And he was talking about, he was all like, acting all weird, acting like all drug addled. But it all seemed effective. It seemed like this guy's trying to pretend like he's a rock star. And then at some point he pulled out a guitar and started playing. And I was like, that's pretty good. Or, whatever. Like, but what butthole pulls out a guitar at a dinner party? Like, come on, man. And then so I made Cersei leave. I'm over this thing. Let's leave. So we left early, and apparently he continued on for the night and it was great. And lo and behold, he was Father John Misty, Josh Tillman. I had no idea. He was allowed to be an affected rock star.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That I don't even care if you are Father John Misty. It's a douchey move to show up with your guitar and bust it out unless people ask you to.
He had just come from the recording studio, so he had it with him and was all like, I think all skitsy because of, he was just in creative space. But yeah, I'm sure he was asked. I'm sure it was part of the curated, these interesting people doing interesting things. And here's Emrat and here's Father John. There you go. But yeah, I sat next to Emrata. We talked about North County a bunch. She was totally lovely, a lovely person.
Good. I love seeing great career things happen to good people.
That's nothing but her.
Totally. And then the other story dominating the headlines on Beach Grit, Kelly Slater potentially reuniting with Gisele. So what is their backstory?
Well, Gisele and Kelly dated from 2005 through 2006, 2 years, maybe not coincidentally, that Kelly won world titles, right? Gisele, Kelly split up. She went on her way, swept off the feet by Tom Brady. But then weeks ago comes out that Tom Brady and Gisele are on the rocks. Both of went and hired divorce lawyers. So surf fans, of course, couldn't help but wish for a reunion. When was the last time, David Lee Scales, we had a top tier couple in surfing?
John Florence and Taylor Swift.
Exactly. John Florence and Taylor Swift was the last one we had. Before that, it was Kelly and Gisele. Before that, it was Kaipo and Madonna. But we've had such a long gap between a high-powered surfing couple that surf fans, of course, are just aching for it and trying to will this into reality.
You'd have to fact check me on this one. What about Stephanie Gilmore and Spike Jonze?
See, that's a tough one because I'm not going to say Spike Jonze counts as a major. He'd be a mid-major. That's good. I like it. I'll count Steph Gilmore and Spike Jonze the same as I count Jack Freestone and Alana Blanchard. That's
okay,
pretty cool.
Fair enough. Because Spike is, he's got all the street cred in the world.
Right.
In terms of surf skate, but also in terms of Hollywood directing.
Sure.
But you're right. My parents don't know his name.
Precisely. Like Gisele, the world knows Gisele, and the world adjacent knows Kelly. So that's what I'm talking about, like hot heat, right? Where, Spike Jonze is great. Nothing against Spike, but a mid-major.
Right. Gotcha. So does that mean that Kelly and Kalani are done, or is this just an opportunity awaits?
I've got to say that if this opened up, Kalani would take one for the team. She would recognize, hey, the surf world needs you and Gisele together more than it needs me, right? I'm going to take one for the team, and Kelly, have at it. Go and be good.
And what if it's also just a career move? Like, hey, Kelly, this will be great to elevate your profile and your career. And whether or not it's sincere, go ahead and dabble in the headlines a little bit. Go on a lunch date, hold hands, maybe even get a smooch for the cameras. And then we'll
1000%. Everybody sees. I mean, even Kalani Miller has to see Kelly's surf career coming to an end, right? And there's got to be, sure, he's made real estate investments. He's, outer known. He's got some stuff coming in. Kelly Slater will be fine, but it has to be, recession is looming. High, everything costs a lot of money these days. Maybe Kalani's looking down and saying, we need a little more money. There's a quick way to get that. Kelly, Gisele, boom.
Wearing outer known. I mean, this is the ultimate play for outer known, ultimately, is what it is.
I mean,
How are we going to get outer known imagery, clothing splashed on every tabloid across the world? A photo of you wearing a blanket flannel with kissing Gisele.
I mean, even better, because they have the blanket flannel for women too. And the fact that we're even talking about Gisele in a blanket flannel, it's already a win for outer known and for
it's
Kelly.
already working. Their plan is already working. Amazing. Well, that's a perfect segue, as it turns out, into the main bulk of today's show, which is how to get rich, how to make money. And
Right.
Stab Magazine's on episode 3 of their How Surfers Get Paid series, which your wife Cersei was featured in episode 1, maybe episode 2 as well. And I want to kind of break this story down a little bit because it relates to so many different things that we talk about all the time. Paul Nod says at the opening of this video piece that he doesn't like outsiders coming into our space. And the episode is mainly about Nike getting involved in the surf space. And it's on Stab Premium. I highly recommend it. It's about 45 minutes long, but it's excellent. It's a documentary series, essentially, but they're getting the information straight from the horses' mouths, the people who are writing these contracts, negotiating these contracts, the athletes who are getting paid by these contracts, and they're giving actual dollar amounts of these contracts.
Are you
And
telling
then
me it's not rumor, colon?
What's that?
Are you telling me it's not rumor, colon, ...
Exclamation point at the end? No, I would say it's fact. And it's also, so they're giving you the facts, but also with the benefit of hindsight, kind of looking at it with the context of how it's affected the surf landscape, and the demise ultimately, because that was a high and now a low, which is kind of funny because the fact that I remember these stories like they were yesterday shows how old you and I are.
For sure.
But it's crazy.
Yeah, living through it too. I mean, I'll continue, I suppose. Living through it though, it felt like that would never end, right? It felt like, I don't know, it just felt like what it was. That's what surfers were worth, a couple $1 million a year for like baseline pay. And of course, and the brands will always be around and everything's, nobody saw the surf industry apocalypse coming. That's what I'm saying.
What's interesting is it always feels that way. It always, like, if your career is on the ascent, let's say, and I don't just mean career, like if your life is on the ascent, if your love life is, whatever it happens to be, you just feel like, oh, things just gradually get better. But inevitably, if you look at anything, if you read a history book, everything goes up and down. Sometimes it completely implodes, and so it's kind of a good lesson to watch these things and learn from and realize, the benefit of saving or whatever it happens to be, the benefit of being prudent. Because when Julian was making however many millions a year from Nike as their key surf athlete, hopefully he recognized that was a limited term thing.
I reckon most of them did at least invest in real estate, which maybe not a great deal in Australia now, but I think overall is probably fairly safe.
Yeah, I would think so. And we will get to the Mick Fanning story that you wrote as well, because that ties into all of this. But let me just start off by asking you about Paul Naudé's opening quote, that I don't like outsiders coming into our space. He goes on a little bit further to say that he wants to defend the borders of surf culture. What are your thoughts on non-endemics being involved? You and I have non-endemic sponsors on this show.
I mean, back then I loved it, right? Like I think there was, it's funny, I would poke fun of Nade, or did in a couple stories, I think for the surfing days, I can't, or maybe Stab, I can't remember who I was writing for, but somebody, I can't remember who, this story is going really good, as you can tell, pulled me aside and said, hey, Paul Nade and you basically think the same thing. Like, you should go after him. He's like a full-on flex, like keep people out, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, ooh, so that always made me respect Nade, or from then on. But then as it relates to the problem is, that's totally great. I want to keep the people out, but it didn't work. Like the war is over, right? Like the walls are broken. I suppose Nade has Visla now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does he still? Yeah. I mean, I guess if you could start, like, if you could make a little collective of like a Visla and a Rourke and I don't know, some of the baby brands, and really flex and say, Board Riders anymore isn't surfing. Volcom isn't surfing. Really go out and do like a sort of old school gotcha campaign about that's not surfing, this is. I would totally back that. I don't know how you do that, right? There's no, like, once you lose Quicksilver, Billabong, Volcom, Vans, like, who's, like, all the endemics are done or owned by, equity or other companies, except for some small ones. And that's great. I mean, I suppose we should all support the small ones, right? We should go all shop Visla and Rourke and wherever else, Critical Wave or Critical Slide Society. All of this is where our money should be going to, right? As surfers.
Yeah, I think so. I support that. I think, like, it's interesting to watch Nade through this piece or through this series, because there's times where I disagree with him and think that he's completely wrong-headed, and then there's times where I'm like, gosh, he's nailing it exactly. In the end, I think I agree with him far more than I disagree with him. And the times that I disagree with, it's because he's a capitalist and I'm probably a capitalist as well, and our agendas are bumping into each other, essentially, is what it comes down to. And so, but I think that he defending the borders of surf culture is the right-headed thing that he's always looking out for. And of course, he's a capitalist, so he's going to do it in a way that allocates as much of the pie into his plate as possible. But, somebody pointed out in the comments section, like, look, he was running Billabong, and Billabong has deals with TJ Maxx and these discount retailers in America where they have entire lines of clothing that are manufactured directly to go to TJ Maxx. So how many Billabong t-shirts or whatever did he sell to these discount retailers that are mainstream and that have nothing to do with core surf culture, So they're pointing out some hypocrisies, and maybe Paul would even own up to those as missteps or something like that, because certainly they're not doing that with Visla. But yeah, it's interesting. As far as non-endemics, I think that he was right. Like you said, at that time, it was definitely the right perspective to have. But I also feel the times have changed. So now there's things like we can have athleticgreens.com/surf as a sponsor that in no way compromises the culture or in no way affects any small surf brands, because it's non-conflicting and they can support our work. You and I can continue to do independent work that maybe helps even bolster surf culture, and it doesn't conflict in any way. There's a way to navigate it,
There, I mean, and I think it's probably a good thing overall, or I see it as a good thing for the monopoly that was Billabong, Quicksilver, Volcom, like the big ones. And the stories that were allowed to be told, right? I mean, you had magazines as vehicles to tell stories, but those were the sponsors, so you couldn't tell anything about them really, right? And so
right.
all that all that breakdown has been good for the surf world. I think, like,
Correct.
we are better off that these companies no longer have a foot on the neck.
But he was right to think, because in that model that you're talking about, which is the time that Paul was talking about, things existed in the magazines. You had to run through this narrow filter. And so it was important to protect those borders to make sure that that filter was correctly or accurately reflecting the surf experience. But he's specifically, in this episode, is specifically talking about Nike. And so Nike basically coming in and just paying, not even understanding the space, but coming in and just saying, here, we're going to write checks to these gatekeepers to then give us entree into the space and tell us about the space. We're not going to learn anything about it. We're just going to buy our way into it. That's what he was trying to protect against.
Yeah, but, and again, I mean, I get it, but the Nike coming in, I suppose you could argue, you know, I don't know, maybe it was Nike and this flood in is what collapsed this, you know, cottage industry that was core and cool. But I think Nike paid athletes, right? Athletes got money from those Nike deals. Athletes got money even if they weren't riding for Nike, like Jordy, right? Jordy got paid out by O'Neal because they were worried that he would go to Nike. And so everybody got paid more. So it was like this high time for pro surfers that, so I don't see Nike coming in as a net negative. It was, and the fact they got out, I mean, you know, bought Hurley and then sold Hurley and bounced. Like, that was it for them, which seems like tail between the legs, and sort of in skateboarding too. I mean, I think they make enough money from the skateboard shoes that those will always be around. But Nike's place in skateboarding is a lot smaller than it used to be.
Well, then let me ask you this. Not only did they pay those athletes, but they also gave them the best lifestyle and experience. So Nike would rent multiple houses on the North Shore during the wintertime, and each athlete would actually have their own private, I don't know if it was one compound with 3 houses on it, but Julian explained it that he had his own house, Kaloe had his own house,
Yeah.
Alejo and Michelle had their own place.
And the main
They
house,
had,
yeah,
they had private chefs,
yeah.
they had masseuses. And so they're living such a more plush lifestyle than all the other athletes riding for other brands. But if you look at the stats competitively, none of those surfers on Nike lived up to what Nike was actually paying them to do. So my question to you is, how do you properly compensate for performance? It's almost, I wonder if the overcompensation and the overplushness that they provided actually hindered their competitive prowess.
I mean, could have been, or they just could have picked the wrong guys, right? Or, but maybe they were the right guys for them. They didn't care necessarily about results. They, you know, maybe Julian was moving the needle. I mean, clearly they weren't, because Nike didn't stick in surf at all, right? They were Nike
Right.
6.0 or whatever it was to Nike Surf, and that was so short-lived, where they bought Hurley and then just threw it all into Hurley. And then I suppose the Hurley Nike relationship must have been beneficial to Nike at some point. I think Hurley was probably profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to assume. And then they flipped that. So I guess they're, you know, for such paltry amounts though, for amounts that Nike doesn't think about. That's what they're
Exactly.
serving. And so it just got so annoying that it was, you know, why are we even thinking about this? We're making a couple $100,000 a year or whatever it is, a couple $1 million a year on this thing that is not part of our core business. Let's just get rid of it. But yeah, so clearly the experiment did not work. But did it not work because those guys were the wrong guys, or simply because broader culture started looking away from surfing? Like surfing became not the cool thing.
Yeah, I understand why Nike did what they did and all that kind of stuff that you just explained. And I understand, but beyond what Paul Nade is saying about protecting the borders, I don't care how much money Nike spent. It's justifiable for them as a marketing expense. I care if it hinders the athlete achieving their full potential. You know, if a full belly and plush environs prohibit a heat win, then I feel like the model was entirely broken, or the team managers did their jobs wrong. Like, I think that there are.
Would Kalohe or Julian ever win? I mean, that's what you can argue.
I think so. I think you could easily argue that Julian Wilson had all the potential to win a world title. And at some point, somebody put too much money in front of him, too much food on his plate, to where it really eroded the desire to actually get the job done. You know, when you see these the coaches who are making the athletes wake up extra early and show up at dark or do extra push-ups or whatever, that's the exact opposite of having a private chef and a private masseuse.
Except like for baseball, for those following along with the playoffs, Padres have Manny Machado, right? Signed him to a 10-year, $300 million contract. I think he's in year 4, maybe of it. But you would think you got your 10-year, $300 million guaranteed. But he's had MVP seasons since he signed it, right? Because he has clearly the mentality of, I want to be a great player. I want to be one of the greatest players. So I will do the work every single morning, where very clearly Julian didn't have that mentality of, I want to be a great surfer. So if he didn't have that to begin with, maybe being hungry doesn't solve that.
I feel like he did have it. And it's actually interesting to hear him talk about it, because they do interview him and Kaloe, because they talk specifically about how the partnership with the brand changed their perspective on surfing, on their entire relationship with surfing. And the way that Kaloe explained it was when Nike kind of dissolved their surf program and the team integrated back into Hurley team riders, Kaloe was like, look, I had all this creative independence and ability to kind of manage my image when it was with Nike. But now when I'm one of 30 athletes, he goes, I felt like I was riding for John. And then I showed up on the North Shore the first winter, and they handed me Julian Wilson's signature board short for me to wear. So because I feel like I'm riding for John's brand because he was the marquee athlete, and I'm not, and now I'm wearing Julian's shorts. Like, I don't know where I fit in here. And so they're literally talking, and Julian talks about when he was on Nike, all of the pressure that he felt because he's the marquee athlete with this brand. And so he has to perform differently, behave differently. And it was just bizarre to think like, man, this business relationship absolutely is affecting not only how you surf heats, but how you surf and how you view surfing as a whole. Like, I really feel like it erodes and hinders what the original goal is.
Maybe I think a bit, but I also like personally, but I think a champion is such a rare quality. Like being around the wife's various athletes, being a champion is something freaky. We take it for granted. We just assume that a champion won, it's hard work and hunger and being better, right? But it's not just that. Like it's an extra weird quality of kicking it over the line. And even with I don't know, I think to do it time and time again, also like Pip Toledo's championship, we'll see, right? If he continues to win championships even without paddling into Chopu, then I'll say, okay, Pip's got like the weird extra gene, but that is super rare. And I think looking at Julian and Chloe, I don't think they just never had it. They would have never had it. And sure, things changed and blah, 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 but they didn't have the thing that wins you a championship.
I agree with you. The difference between being a top 5 athlete and a champion is entirely different.
It's worlds apart. Like the difference between me and you and a top 5 athlete is closer than the difference between a top 5 athlete and a champion.
So based on your experience being around the wife's athletes, do you think Felipe Toledo has what it takes to win more than one?
I mean, the proof will really be in the pudding. We'll see how, I think there's some who kind of luck into their one championship, and that's fine. They're not necessarily champions. They are people who won a championship. But champions, I suppose, the distinction are, the people who can just redo it again, like you can stay in that mindset and do it again. And I'd say Idolo is a champion, right? Gabe is clearly, John oddly is, Kelly of course is. The one-offers through the World Surf League and ASP's history, I think you could make a case for some of them and a case against most of them.
I agree. I don't think Felipe has it, and I'll be glad to be proven wrong, but I don't see him going past this one world title. Mainly because the other people who he would be contending against are just so much stronger surfers in a variety of conditions,
The only
and
the only
and
the only thing
competitive
I would say
athletes.
though, I mean, but the WSL is really stacking it in Philippe's
I agree.
favor accidentally by both making it less interesting to the, like, how are you? I mean, John clearly seemed checked out. I mean, he's 30 also, so he's arguably past his professional surfing prime, but it clearly checked out. Sailing the world, doesn't care. Gabe, it'll be real interesting to see if he checks back in. Idolo seems like he caught the fire again, but who's going to stand like at Surf Ranch and all of this kind of crappy reimagined tour? Who really stands? I could see Pip winning 4 and still not having the heart of a champion.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Also, to your point about the difference between, or the money not necessarily being what hindered Julian or Chloe, John Florence surpassed all of those guys with his $4 million a year contract with Hurley, and then won 2 world titles with the $4 million bucks. So
exactly.
it didn't hinder his performance at all,
And I mean, I think in truth, John was that much of a better surfer, but you can't just be that much of a better surfer. Like, you can get totally stuck in weird, like, but really was a competitor. As much as he tried to, or vibed chill bro, like, you've got to be a pit bull for your heats to win that consistently, to win titles.
Yeah, totally. They had great waves on tour when he won those world titles as well, so that helps for his style of surfing for sure. But this also leads us to the Mick Fanning article that I mentioned earlier, which is you wrote on beachgrit.com. It says, as staggering wealth revealed, champion surfer Mick Fanning crowned one of the most successful post-retirement business athletes in Australia. ! End quote. What's the story here?
Bravo, Mick. It was revealed, though not many details were given, that Mick has gone on. I think it claimed that he won $2 or $3 million over his years on tour from prize winnings, but probably he had to have, like, the whole thing seemed oddly kind of silly to me, because I was thinking he probably made how much do you reckon he made at Rip Curl? 10 million?
Over the total of his career?
Yeah.
Well, he's making $1 million a year, right? Kind of through the heyday years, or 1.2 or something like that.
Plus Red Bull, plus everything else. I mean, I'd reckon that he made $20 million over the course of his career. So it seemed kind of funny to me. It seemed, which I should have written about more now that I think about it. They were just looking at his prize money and saying, wow, he spun this prize money into a $20 million fortune, which,
right.
And he's still making money from Red Bull, making money from Rip Curl, so all good. But yeah, he invested in real estate. He invested in restaurants and bars and a fitness thing. And Balter was the big one, his stake in Balter. So I think netted him like 5 mil or something like that. So yeah, Mick Fanning, who would have ever seen that coming though? Whether or not he made 20 million alone from Rip Curl and Red Bull, he, as one of the most successful post-retirement businessmen in Australia.
Good for him. And I like Mick a lot. It's incredible to see the level of surfing that he's still doing through that electric acid surfboard test recently. So I'm a big fan, and I love to see this. So many other surfers have transitioned into like their own brands, Dane, Julian. There's a couple that I feel like are more successful than others. Obviously, Florence Marine X, Kelly Slater's, but Julian's feels like a little bit of a forced fit.
What's
Julian? Julian is Rivia.
I've been unaware until this moment.
Yeah, it has 2 V's. Rivvia.
Rivia. What do they make?
It looks like golf clothing and like athleisure.
Oh, that's probably pretty smart though. Like, that stinking Lululemon for men sort of stuff is like, I'm sure he'll crush.
I don't know if he will though. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't even know that it existed. Julian,
I did, but I don't play golf or wear athleisure. So it's clearly not aimed at me, and they're not wasting any resources at getting it to me.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess my thought is Dane has a real personality, point, and style.
Have you
And
ever
so
seen a piece of what's Dane's color?
former,
Yeah. Have you ever seen a piece of former in the wild? I would love to. This is nothing against Dane or the brand. I
right.
just like, I don't see it anywhere ever. And I live in a surfy town that has, you know, some core elements. You'd think I'd see it
Yeah,
around.
yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I don't see it either, but I think that it is successful. Not super successful, but I think it still exists, and it's 5 or 6 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It has lasted longer than I expected it to. Kelly clearly has an agenda and a personality and an image. John Florence certainly does. And Julian, I just feel like I don't even know what the image is or the agenda is or the style is.
I'm gonna
So
go on, I'm gonna go on record right now to say that's gonna be the most successful of all of them.
okay, perfect. Let's take we'll
After the
track
golf
this.
stuff, because he is a golfer, right? He's like a avid golfer, and he has entree into that world. And I'm sure, I mean, I see more Viore pants on men around here than anything by far, or Viore shorts, right? And
Well, yes,
that's what men wear.
it's because whoever's behind that company is obviously doing an excellent job getting it out there into the market and marketing it and all that sort of stuff. If I don't know who is behind Julian's project, and I agree with you, he's maybe in a good category that he fits in. But if they're not driving, who's behind the brand? Who's driving it? Who's doing all the actual day-to-day work? You know?
Julian.
Right. Which is why we haven't seen that in the wild either. At any rate, my point is to say that Mick Fanning, you know, he's not trying to force a fit. It's like his fits with Rip Curl. He's collecting a paycheck. He's continuing. It's an easy job for him to do, an easy role for him to fill. And then just taking those earnings, putting them in other businesses that other people are doing the legwork with and letting it
Maybe
pay
not sexy
dividends.
businesses. Like it's like Shaquille O'Neal investing in a bunch of Taco Bells or whatever he buys, right? Like Magic
Right.
Johnson owning a bunch of Starbucks franchises. Like
Yeah.
it's stuff that is not, it just like earns money, right? It just
Yeah.
prints money. You don't have to worry about it. It's not sexy. You're not out there with your big name on your Taco Bell franchise, but you got 40 of them. They're just like each printing money. You're just sitting back collecting.
Yeah. I think it's super savvy. I love seeing it.
You know what mechanics should buy?
Hmm.
A Bubba Coos franchise.
That leads us to our commercial. Not quite though. You're right though. He should. So two entirely unexpected themes have developed on this show over the years. Wealth management and financial advice,
Yeah,
and health and wellness advice.
we're good at both of them.
Who knew?
Best in class. Yeah, best surf podcast with a health and wellness and financial strategy approach.
We steered people away from Laird Superfoods when that went public. We
Yep.
steered people towards AG1.
Wow, I didn't think about it. We're actually good at this.
I know, totally unexpected. I don't think we started out good at it. It took us some time. We had terrible, probably advice for both those things in the early days, but just through kind of paying attention, we're getting good.
Man, listen up, people. You're welcome.
And you know, the quickest and the easiest way to do to get rich or to do any of this is to marry up, which you and I can also advise on. That's the secret key to our success.
Marry up. It's so true. You don't have the stresses. You don't have these stress. And I'm not talking money stresses here. I'm saying marry up in terms of an emotionally intelligent person where you can go be your best self because you have support. And I'm not even talking material support. I think I get busted all the time for marrying a richer woman. And it's true, I did, but no longer. Beach grit, crushing it. I'm richest in the family.
Perfect.
But I have the support of a wonderful wife.
Doesn't she have to take your last name or something if you have 1 month of earnings that's greater than hers?
I claim 1. She claims it's a year. So I got a ways to go here, but I'm on the way. As long as Gisele and Kelly actually get together, boom, I got it.
Well, we also have to hamstring your wife. We need to like cripple her earnings during this same time to really help you, prop you up.
Shoot me to the moon. Yeah, I should start
Exactly.
doing subtle stories undermining her business interest.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's perfect. She'll be happy, but she'll be supportive of that too.
So yes, this is our advice to listeners: is
Marry up.
obviously avoid layered superfoods. Obviously drink AG1. Obviously get a Bubba Coos franchise. Get rich off burritos. Also marry up. Marry up might be the first step that'll allow you to do those other steps.
It's true.
This goes for men and women, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Your married up spouse will so support a Bubba Coos franchise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. I don't know who I was having this conversation with. Oh, it was in these last couple of weeks we were gone. I was talking to a friend. We were talking about like when you're poor, everything compounds, and when you're rich, poorness compounds. And when you're rich, richness compounds. Like when you're poor, if you get a parking ticket,
you're going to get 17 more.
Or that one you can't pay for, it's like, I mean, parking tickets around here or at Los Angeles or whatever, they're $75 or something. It's like your budget's tight. You can't pay the $75, or you can't maybe by the time it's due. Then that becomes $150. And you definitely can't pay that. Then all of a sudden you're trying to get your car registered and it's turned into $400. And the $300 car registration is now $700. You can't pay that. And it just compounds. It's impossible to get out of. And even if you get a raise in whatever job you're working in that, category, your raise is 50 cents an hour. It's not enough to actually change your situation. On the flip side of it, if you're rich and you have surplus income, Mick Fanning, you make some investments, those turn into millions of dollars, and that just compounds. So your only hope is to be kind of middle tiered and to be able to get into the next tax bracket to where you can actually kind of make some meaningful change, because it's super hard to get out of that poor category,
I'll tell you, the next tax bracket sucks. That next tax bracket is terrible. That thing will put you right back down into poverty real quick.
To earn more money and then to end up netting less money.
Way less money. Yeah, that's pretty great.
Is an absolute crime of
capitalism.
The tax system.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of news stories before we do go to our Bubba Coos break. A couple of news stories that maybe we should touch on. In unprecedented sporting history move, World Surf League crowns second asterisk champion in under a month.
Yes. They got a longboard world champ now. Bravo to them. But the sitting world champion, Joel Tudor, was not invited to perform and also not discussed one bit. How weird is that? I mean, how weird that you can't even address the elephant in the room at all. Like say, hey, look at everybody watching out there. Joel's not here because Joel got suspended for saying inflammatory things. But let's turn our attention to the water.
So not only did they not mention his inflammatory things, they never even acknowledged their current world champ.
Yeah.
They can't even say his name. And this is a little bit of a rumor, but substantiated rumor. There was a missive from the WSL to the commentators at the longboard championship event at Malibu to not speak of Joel Tudor. Just a complete erasure.
The WSL is truly Stalinist in the way that it's trying to change both history. I mean, it started with claiming that we started in 1976 and then has gone on from there of like this complete realignment of everything, like just by, and I don't know how they think their will is so big that they can do that. But to me, it looks perpetually foolish. Nobody forgot Joel Tudor, especially not people who are watching that are longboard fans. Nobody's stumbled on to the longboard broadcast and thought, what's this? Right? Anybody who is watching that is an honest to goodness longboard fan. And if you're a longboard fan, then whether you're a fan of Joel Tudor or not, you're $1,000,000,000% know Joel Tudor. And so it just seems asinine. Like if they said, okay, this is going to be big broad, this is going to be on NBC, and we're going to have this huge non-endemic audience watching longboarding. Let's not talk about this little ugly thing, right? They don't need to know. It's not everybody knew. Everybody watching knew.
Well, it's funny that nobody even commented on the event itself. I mean, your one article, which wasn't even about the event itself, it was more about Joel Tudor than it was about the event itself. That's the only article I even saw written about the Longboard World Championship. I was on various surf websites over the course of the last 2 weeks. Nobody even commented on it.
But I think arguably that's the World Surf League's whole goal, is to kill the Longboard World Tour. They don't want to run it. It doesn't move the needle for them. It very well could. I mean, I would still argue that every Val out there is on a longboard of some sort, whether it's a, wave storm or whatever it is. Like, it's something you could actually sell, probably, if you thought about it hard enough, to the massive influx of people beginning to surf, but they don't have the imagination or the time, and so they've been looking to kill it, and now they have the perfect excuse. Nobody writes about it, nobody pays attention to stuff.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
super bizarre. But in the way that kind of they're redesigning the shortboard tour to not allow the best surfers in the world to do the best surfing, the best longboarders in the world don't need to compete on the longboard tour either. Like, everybody knows Joel Tudor is the guy, and he doesn't need to compete. I mean, he wants to compete and he'll show up in a win if, given the chance, but he can exist and everybody knows that he's the guy without the WSL. And I feel like shortboard surfing is going that way as well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're getting video clips of John Florence in the South Pacific getting shacked at Cloudbreak or wherever he's at in far better surf than what they're serving up for lowers on finals day. So as viewers, we're like, well, this is way more compelling than that. And this guy surfs way better than that guy. So it just really erodes the relevance of what they're doing, the WSL is doing.
I got a funny Instagram message from somebody who said, here's a funny drinking game to play. Go to the World Surf League's YouTube feed, their channel, right? Sort by whatever videos, most played videos. Scroll down until you find the most watched event in history per World Surf League chest pounding, the finals day at lowers. And you have to take a drink every time you stop and think you must have passed it already, because it's that low in their own feed, right? Like,
really?
They're the ones claiming this is the most watched thing in history with 8 million and counting and whatever. It ranks so low on their own World Surf League videos that it's hard to find, apparently.
And I would also, without even actually looking at the stats, I would argue all of those videos still have fewer views than any one of Jamie O'Brien's twice a week clips.
For sure. Or Ben Gravy's tanker surf.
Exactly. There was another story that I don't think you wrote about. I was shocked to see you not write about it. Was Mark Zuckerberg's foil exploits. Somebody in his company who's been with the company forever is now COO or some high position. And the video that he posted of the guy was him foil surfing an outer reef somewhere in Hawaii.
Of Zuck or of himself?
Of the guy that it works for his company. Like, I think Zuck's out in the water with him, but the clip is of his cohort.
I missed this.
Yeah.
I was so caught up in Gisele and Kelly that look at what I missed.
Well, I was just scrolling Instagram and I see the clip and it's on Zuckerberg's Instagram. I'm like, what the heck? And it's a legit wave. I mean, the wave never actually broke. It was just like a big lull, but it was, a big 15-foot swell. I was like, holy cow, Zuck has like actually gotten better at this thing. And it turned out to not be Zuck. It was his underling who was doing it, but still it was like,
I'm going in. I'm going back in.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, that brings us to commercials. So let's go ahead, cut to commercial, and tell people how they can get even more rich with our advice. All right, Chaz, today's show is brought to you by Breast Cancer Awareness Month at Bubba Coos.
I mean, talk about two great things going together: breast cancer awareness and burritos.
It seems like an odd fit, but here, as we spoke about 2 weeks ago on this very show, is that breast cancer awareness is actually an awareness campaign that can actually do good. It's not just to toot our own horn or pat ourselves on the back. Breast cancer, through early detection, is treatable, and you can certainly avoid negative effects of it. And so Bubba Coos is kind of raising awareness. They're partnering with the American Cancer Society for the month of October. They're raising money to help support their research efforts in the fight against breast cancer.
So it's not just awareness, man. Look at that.
Not just awareness. Every store this month will be selling Cancer Sucks cups at the register, and they're also taking donations in the store or on the app. So you can go to bubbacoos.com to find out where store locations are, and bubbacoos.com/surf. Go there, and then you can download the app, and then that helps them let them know that you found them through us and our show. So obviously, eat at Bubba Coos if there's a location near you. If there's not, consider a franchise. And then, of course, consider donating and supporting the breast cancer awareness campaign at bubbacoos.com/surf. All right, Chaz, we're back. Let's do a quick true grit or clickbait crap before we go to barrel or nah.
Let's do it.
Quote, Bill Murray, iconic comedian and dear friend of champion surfer Kelly Slater, viciously accused of dumping child in trash can for refusing to move off couch.
It is true, David Lee Scales.
Really?
And I'm going to say that it is directly related to Kelly as well, because not hours either before or after this story broke did Kelly have an Instagram photo with him and Bill Murray. So I'm going to say very much related. The story, did you know the story? Did you read the story? Do you remember
I had no idea.
Seth Green, the comedian? Or he's not.
Yeah.
Seth Green.
Yeah,
he was in Austin Powers,
of
whatever.
Course. He was in Airborne.
Yeah, that one, Seth Green. So Seth Green tells this story. I can't remember who, a variety maybe, but anyway, that he was 9 years old and invited on Saturday Night Live to do some thing on Weekend Update. I think it was like What Kids Think or something, right? And he was like in movies or something at the time, so it was one notable, child actor thing. Anyway, he was sitting on where Bill Murray wanted to sit, but Bill Murray comes in the room, asks him to move, and he's like, no, or something. And his mom was sitting there saying, like, you could sit somewhere else to Bill Murray, something like that. So Bill takes Seth Green by the ankles, dangles him above the trash can. Green hits him in the balls, so Murray dropped him in the trash can. And then Green went and hid under a table and cried and said it was like super traumatizing. That story should have been delivered by Seth Green as I was a little prick kid. Right. And that was really funny, but no, it was delivered as in Bill Murray caused me permanent trauma that I'm still dealing with today.
Yeah, that's, first of all, is Seth Green just trying to be relevant? Is he still working?
I don't think so. I think this is his, look at me, I'm around. I mean, he must have, to get interviewed, he must have been probably promoting something, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I feel like at some point he transitioned into like producing or writing, and so maybe he's doing, I don't know, maybe he's doing media for something that he's written or something like that. But I agree with you. His tact on this is entirely wrong. This is a hilarious story, and in no way is he a victim of Bill Murray.
No. And for sure, he was acting super entitled. And so on the story, it's like, have you swung into Beach Trit's comments lately?
Yeah, I have.
There's a slew of new people commenting who are not necessarily from the community. And so I got big in trouble for, how do you condone, this is child abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you ever had a 9-year-old child? Like, do you, jerks need to be put into place often.
Yeah.
I guarantee Seth Green was being entitled and jerky and rude and all the bad things.
While I was gone, I didn't fully track it. I just saw a couple of Instagram posts about it that I don't know if they were even vetted or what source they were from, but something about Bill Murray being in trouble, like he was going to get canceled for, I don't know, sexual misconduct or something.
It's something I think maybe that's where Seth Green was piling on.
Okay.
Or I think maybe Bill Murray was in the news for, I don't know, it was being rude to somebody, being abrasive. I don't know if there's any touching or whatever. I didn't read the stories either, but yeah, Bill Murray's he's trying to cancel him.
is it actually legit though, or is it just kind of
I don't know. I think he's cantankerous and whatever. One of
okay?
the new commenters on Beach Grit said that they worked as an airline something and had to seat him one time, and he was like insufferable, like whatever. I think he's can be a jerk, but Kelly
That's
Slater,
disappointing.
great friend. Yeah, you'd think that Bill Murray would be kind, but whatever.
I've always liked his cantankerousness, and certainly I've never been around him, and I'm not a woman who's ever been around him, but I never got creepy vibes from him. So I'd be
No,
disappointed to hear that he is.
I
And
think it was
further,
less creepy than pure mean, but
okay.
again, I haven't read the stories either. I could be wrong.
Further, I refer to Austin, our kid, as baby Bill Murray because he's got the exact same hairstyle. Like it's kind of thin up front and on the top, and it's all curly in the back and it sticks out a bit. He's got the same head shape. His face kind of looks the same. And his
Perfect.
personality reminds me of Bill Murray. So I always refer to him as my little Bill Murray or my baby Bill Murray. And when I saw those headlines of Bill being canceled, I just thought, oh no, I can't refer to my baby as little Bill Murray anymore
You still
because
can. I'm gonna say you still can.
okay. I just don't want to get painted with a Me Too brush. That's all.
Kelly Slater approved.
Okay, cool. And for those who don't know, there's more Bill Murray relation to the surf world than just Kelly Slater. He was at G-Land back in the day.
Yeah.
There's images of him holding a surfboard. I don't know if he's actually surfed, but there's images of him holding surfboards. So there's that.
Yep, it's true.
True grit or clickbait. World Surf League CEO Eric Logan achieves boyhood dream. Cosplays as fighter pilot during exciting weekend! Exclamation point.
It's true. He did. He got to go to Fresno with his friends who are apparently War One, who's a fighter pilot, and sit in the cockpit and throw shakas and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll tell you what, Jesse Miley Dyer and Eric Logan's separate Instagram accounts have each gone so far off the rails that it is daily comedy. It is daily pure comedy to watch both of them on Instagram.
It's really insane. And
it's wild.
I mean, I would be apprehensive to even bring it up, but then the fact that you wrote a story about it, I was like, thank goodness, so we can talk about this. These are adults. I mean, it's insane. When I came across this post of Eric, it's got the words popping up on the screen. So like he knows how to use the platform really effectively. It's him, perfectly coiffed hair, perfectly groomed beard, grinning like a child because he's going to ride in a fighter jet. But he's not just going to experience this. He's going to document the entire thing in selfie mode, cut it together like a professional, and then publish it so that his fans can participate in his outing.
But he didn't get to fly though, too. He just got to sit in the fighter.
It even more insane. You know what I mean? Like every
but,
part about it, I'm like, what is happening?
Well, I mean, and God bless her. I really like Jessie Miley Dyer. She might not know that, but I really do. But watching her do her videos as like, I am your business inspiration guru, like, I don't know what got into their heads. Both of them, like, they somehow made each other insane people. Like, both of them are living a fantasy that is, I'll tell you, listeners, get in while the getting's good, because who knows when this is going to stop. But both of them are so stinking off the rails that it seems like, I don't want to blame mushrooms or something, but it seems like they're both on some thing. Maybe they're just on dripping pure positivity into their veins, but they've both gone wild.
I know, it's really insane. Remind me, what successful business ventures does Jessie have that she's developed this credibility from?
The World Surf League, David Lee Scales. She has brought equality to the World Surf League, so much so that tennis icons now are aware of surfing because of the work that has been done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. Yeah. Super credible then.
But honestly, everyone, I don't write about them because I don't want to, unlike Kelly Gisele, I don't want to flog that dead horse, but it is daily hilarity.
Well, the other thing is, nobody actually cares. You know what I mean? Like you and I can joke about it, and we would joke about it if we were just having a cocktail at dinner quietly. We happen to have microphones in front of us, and so we're just kind of sharing the conversation with everybody else, but nobody beyond us staring at surfing under a microscope actually cares what Eric's doing or what Jesse's doing,
I mean,
and certainly don't care what they're posting on their Instagrams.
I get the feeling because I get the feelings both of them are very engaged in growing their followings, which
That's the bizarre part.
who knows why. The CEO of surfing and the senior vice president of tours, head of competition, whatever her title is, are very, 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 very engaged and spending time and energy in growing their personal follower counts. Like,
Yeah.
and getting a lot of strokes in the comments. It's honestly like they're just decided to be influencers. And like, how does surfing benefit from having either Jesse Miley Dyer or Eric Logan as forward facing? Like, as we are the brand. It's bizarre. It is straight up bizarre.
It only, if anything, creates a liability for the WSL. Like if they are then public figures who are representing this thing and they misstep at any point, it reflects poorly on the brand itself. So it'd be better just to quietly do your job.
It's crazy to me that the WSL's, whoever is in charge of their personnel, hasn't pulled on both sides and said, hey, we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the you to camera, describing everything that you're doing. Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that leads us to Barrel or Not. It's actually our first Barrel or Not. We hit this years and years ago, but it's now more relevant than ever. Barrel or Not, starting a TikTok account.
So I'm going to say for anyone, unless you have a business interest, if you are going to make money and how you have a path forward, right? You have an existing fan base, you can do something that you can share that will then generate income. Have at it. If you're doing it for any other reason than that, then you are retardé, as they say in French. You're late.
Well, yes, specifically for Surf Splendor then, because a couple of people recently have been like, dude, just get on there, post whatever you're doing for Instagram, take that exact video. You don't have to do anything new for TikTok. Just take that exact video, publish it, put some hashtags on it, and watch the thing blow up. Like the algorithm, the way that it works is pervasive and crazy. And so you'll be amazed at the returns you get for basically just posting the same thing you would have on Instagram.
Well, look, we have something to sell. So there we go.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I should do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the other weird thing is I have friends in their 50s who are sending me TikToks. Like in our group message, they're sending me, just like they would 10 years ago have sent me a YouTube video of something funny. They're now just sending me TikTok videos of something funny. And I'm thinking, that means this 55-year-old male is scrolling TikTok. I hope to God he's not posting videos, but he is at least using it as a platform to get probably news, but also entertainment, like you and I do on Instagram. And it kind of blew my mind that the 50-year-old's on there.
It's weird. Yeah. I mean, I've stopped it's really even hard for me to motivate with Instagram anymore. I'm like, I go for Jesse and Eric, and that's pretty much it. And then I'll kind of scroll through to see openly gay pets or animals or whatever it's called. Like, look at this rush and a couple funny meme accounts and then be done for the day. And can't even be bothered to post anymore, which is probably a bummer.
I know. I've since employed somebody to do the posting for me.
Yeah, I need that. I'm gonna employ both Kelly and Gisele.
Yeah. All right. Well, Barrel on TikTok for business, no Barrel if you're doing it for personal. Barrel or Not, the Beach Boys, the music group, not the actual Beach Boys.
Man, as a kid, I thought they were so Barrel. I thought it was real surf music. As an Oregon kid, putting the Beach Boys records on and jamming out and really feeling like I had arrived. I was listening to surf music because I was a surfer. Brian Wilson, I'm going to say, is a light barrel for Pet Sounds. Is like Brian Wilson and Pet Sounds. That album is a surf ranch barrel. The Beach Boys today at your county fair, no barrel.
So I had the exact opposite experience with the Beach Boys. I loved surfing and I felt like they were posers. And the fact that they're even named the Beach Boys, I was like, these clowns, I want nothing to do with this. And their hit songs just were on, the radio constantly. And my parents knew, I was just like, these guys, posers. I want nothing to do with them. They're faking what I'm actually going to the beach and doing. Yet I've gotten older and I appreciate music now more than I did when I was a kid. Their music's amazing.
Have you gone to the county fair to see them? Have you been that inspired?
No. Oh, well, this is a new epiphany for me, and I don't go to the fair anyways. So no, I have not. And I don't think I would, but just on my Discover Weekly this week, they fed me some Beach Boys. It was a song I had never heard before. The song came on. I'm like, God.
Your Discover Weekly. How embarrassed would you be embarrassed if people saw your Discover Weekly? What, through your listening habits, what Spotify thinks that you will like?
Not at all. I remember though an episode of I think it was King of Queens where Patton Oswalt's character, Netflix is feeding him like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy and Sex in the City. Netflix thought he was gay, basically was the joke, and he was all offended. Or maybe it was TiVo at the time, but no, I would not be offended. I would not be embarrassed to share my Spotify Discover Weekly at all.
We should both share our Spotify Discover Weeklies. Can we do that on searchsplendor.com/search?
Yeah, we could Instagram it. We could make a TikTok video about it.
Okay, perfect.
But they fed me the Beach Boys. It was a song I had never heard before. And I'm like, instantly, I'm like, God, this is kind of incredible. And then I secondly identified it as Beach Boys because it sounded like them. And I just thought, man, their catalog is super deep. And the obscure stuff is actually more interesting and better than the big hits by far. Oh, and yeah. I'm really into it.
You're down. I think I'm going to predict that your love affair with the Beach Boys, you're going to get super into it. You're going to listen to Pet Sounds. It's going to be great. You're going to think, this is great. This is great. This is great. This is great. And then it's going to slowly fade.
That's how all music works, though. You just burn yourself out on it. The Dennis Wilson kind of side story with Charles Manson. Are you familiar with that?
Vaguely. I remember that there was a dabble.
Yeah, Charles Manson was a musician and like an aspiring musician. And so he finagled his way into like a friendship with Dennis Wilson. And Dennis Wilson was out promoting his music for him. So super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, final barrel or not. This comes off of my recent couple of weeks away with the new wife and kid. I had a surfboard with me. I had waves in front of me. Barrel or not? Going in after one wave.
Barrel.
Total barrel, dude, right?
Full on barrel. If you like, I'll say a couple different ways to get that barrel too. I'll say you paddle out and it sucks. You just paddle out to do it. You're sitting out there, it sucks anyway. You catch your one wave, you come in, right? Barrel. You're out there pumping. You catch a wave so good that you know you're not going to be able to recreate it. You come in. Those are the two real barrels. I mean, it's all barrel, but those are the two like stand-up barrels.
I used to, for a decade of my life, it was a 2-hour session was my average session. If the waves are pumping, maybe you're surfing 3 or 4 hours or something like that. In the last, 8 years, I'm a 45 minutes is my session. Before work, maybe it's the afternoon before the sun goes down, but 45 minutes is what I need to kind of get 3 or 4 or 5 waves or whatever. I'm at the point now where it's like I said, we're staying near the beach. There's waves out front. I see the waves kind of get good. The kid's on the beach. I want to spend time with the kid. I want to spend time with the wife, but I want to go out there and catch one wave. I catch one wave, do what I want to do. It's real quick. It takes 5 minutes, come back in, have a good time. I feel like I kind of did everything.
I had the kid out surfing the other day. And it was kind of pumping, right? But it was just me and her. And so I couldn't paddle out the back, but and wanted, it was fun on the inside too. And so she was catching them and whatever. I was waiting out there. And then, eventually said, okay, I'm going to go get one. Right. And just, you go on the beach because I don't want you swimming when I'm out there. So paddle out, caught one wave, and it was like functional, serviceable, like getting the job done.
Just getting the job done. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I, in addition to the examples you gave, I also have a third example, not as proud of a moment, but got the one wave thinking, I'll go back out and get another one. Just got stuck paddling out, like sets were coming. And I'm just like, you know what? This is exhausting. I think it's time to go in. Spun around, just went back in.
Man,
I duck dive 8 times. I don't want to duck dive 16 to get that second wave. I'm going in right now.
That's the one that's hard to stomach, though, to me. Once you're committed to one more wave, to turn around feels like defeat. Where at least if you go in after that one, then you're going in victorious.
Right. Well, no shame here.
Yeah, glad.
Well, hey, great show. Great to be back.
Oh, great. Next week in person. Sorry about this week.
No, it's all good. Obviously, thanks to bubbacooz.com. We never say it, but thanks to linkedin.com/surf. They don't require a ton of us. We pre-record, we auto play those. But if you need to find a job, if you want to post a job to find employees, linkedin.com/surf. And then of course, I didn't mention it yet, but athleticgreens.com/surf keeps us well and in business every week.
It's so much better than anything else you can consume in the day. I mean, that's the real truth. The athleticgreens.com/surf is the #1 thing you can put in your body all day long, counting everything.
It's so simple.
Yep.
It's simple and good for you. It's like they automated. It's just why wouldn't you do it?
Win-win.
athleticgreens.com/surf. All right, Chaz, beachgrit.com. Help Chaz beat his wife's earnings this year. Go to beachgrit.com. Leave a comment. Click on the ads.
You can do it.
Anything else?
You can do it. Yeah, that's it.
All right, sweet, man. I will see you next week. Until then, Chaz, let's have Hannah sign us off once again.
Bon voyage.